It is September 22nd, 2020, and it is a rather interesting day in the Saints community and Who Dat Nation. Reason being, in case you missed it, the Las Vegas Raiders did defeat the Saints in an upset victory, 34-24, in the Las Vegas Raiders home opener. Derek Carr was able to throw for 282 yards, 3 TDs with a 120.7 QB rating. This is a major upset for the Saints, and I know today has been crazy. Honestly, I believe there has been a lot of overreaction from the Saints fans, but also a lot of denial for the Saints fans. And there are always things to fix on an NFL team, but there are things that have been plaguing the New Orleans Saints for the last 3 years that need to be addressed. So today I'm going to break down what went right, what went wrong, and, just see what the New Orleans Saints are right now and what they could be for the future. So I'll get over the next 24 hours. Hopefully you guys can listen to this podcast and we can break down this game and look forward to the Green Bay game that is on Sunday. So before I kind of dive into the show and kind of dissect the negatives, because there were a lot of negatives in this specific game, let's break down some positives. I had some good first quarter positive notes before it all went downhill. I will say that Traquan Smith, he came to play today. He was making catches, making runs after the catch, breaking tackles. He was run blocking, and his run blocking is superb. First of all, let's shout out Josh Hill and Traquan Smith for their run blocking. I know a lot of people every year seem to, have this thing where they're like, why did Josh Hill, why did Traquan Smith make the roster? Or they're, requesting free agents to come in and take their place. Well, I personally believe that their run blocking is what keeps them on the roster. They're very good run blockers, and that's a key to running the screens and running the different sets that the New Orleans Saints like to run on offense. Other positives that I wanted to point out was in the first quarter, the secondary play seemed to be a lot better. Trey Hendrickson, he came to play. He definitely was balling. He did have some errors. I think he did have a flag, personal foul hit roughing the quarterback, but he did make up for the play the very next play. Trey Hendrickson is a player that I really like to see on the field. The whole defense struggled as a whole today, but he is a player that I'd love to see on the field. I love to watch him play. And while Marcus Davenport is out, I hope to see a lot more positive plays from Trey Hendrickson. One thing that I did notice was the first quarter for the offense. The first drive was very efficient. They were running fluidly. The plays were great. I see on the screen a couple of screens that were very successful in the first quarter. But they did not score a touchdown. They scored 3 points. And the Raiders all day, they came to play. They studied their film, and they deserved to win this game. There are a lot of games where we as Saints fans might have felt like we were given the short end of the stick, but honestly, let's be honest with ourselves. The Raiders came to play yesterday. So honestly, I believe that they honestly set the tone a little bit. They're stopping the Saints' initial drive and holding us to 3 points, and it went all downhill from there, because after the first quarter, there are really no positives on both the offensive or defensive side of the ball. So let's get into that. Okay, now it's time to discuss the rest of the game. And the rest of the game didn't really go very well for the Saints. It was actually pretty abysmal. And for most Saints fans, we were on Twitter or we were sitting at home in our chairs, and we just wasn't a good day for us. So let's start with the second quarter. The second quarter, it just seems like the Saints defense were not able to get off the field. No matter if it was third down, third and 1, third and 2, third and 10, it really didn't matter what down it was and how long the distance was. The New Orleans Saints defense could not get off the field. There was nothing that we can do. And one name that comes to mind when thinking about the Raiders offense is not Derek Carr, it is Darren Waller. Darren Waller is 6'6", 250 pounds, good hands, runs crisp routes. I mean, I was thoroughly impressed with his route running the entire game, and his speed is impeccable. And he gave the New Orleans Saints a lot of trouble yesterday. There seemed to be no one that could, guard him. I mean, Demario Davis did an okay job guarding him, but for the most part of the game, Malcolm Jenkins was on him. There were times as a fan that I'm screaming at the TV, put Demario Davis on him, but now that I think about it, that would have set the defense back. The middle of the field would have been wide open, and it would have gave them chance after chance just to gash our defense up the middle. So that would have been a negative alternative to Malcolm Jenkins on Darren Waller. And Malcolm Jenkins honestly had one of his worst games probably in his career, probably a game that he will never want to remember. But he could not keep up with Darren Waller. Darren Waller ended up with, I want to say 13 catches for 103 yards. And it didn't seem like, when you look back at it, it seems like it was almost 200 yards. He seemed to catch every play. No matter who he was lined up on, they were throwing his way. But his catches were crucial. It wasn't about the yardage. His catches were very crucial. And this is a game that we looked at originally. In our last episode, I had my friend Kyle up here to dissect the game with me, and we were able to point out that this game was called a dark horse game for a reason. It's a game that could be a trap game, and I believe that the Oakland Raiders, after watching the game that I saw yesterday, they are a playoff team. They are a playoff contender. They're a young team, a great offensive line, and a good secondary play. Jonathan Abrams was amazing on the field. He was all over the field and causing Drew Brees to have a lot of different problems and challenges throughout the course of the entire game. But what I want to say is, to wrap up the second quarter, it just was all the Oakland Raiders. I think their time of possession was huge, and Drew Brees threw a late 2-minute drive interception, and that really kind of set us back, because Oakland Raiders were getting the ball back to start the second half. So that is something that was really, something that we were trying to avoid. We're not a big turnover team, but that turnover was at a costly time. So going into the second half of the game, it seemed like most fans were pretty confident that we were going to be able to make those adjustments and, do what we needed to do to stop Darren Waller. And none of that happened. Not at all. I mean, Darren Waller continued to rack up stats and rack up catches and rack up yards against this New Orleans Saints defense. There was no answer for him. And I really feel like the adjustments that Dennis Allen could make would have only hurt the team in another phase on the defense. Seems like Marshawn Lattimore was struggling against a smaller, speedier receiver. Marcus Williams was having trouble tackling. Janoris Jenkins had a rough day. He had a bad pass interference at the end of the game that really cost us, and overall the defense wasn't there. But for me, the most concerning thing about the defense was the defensive line. I mean, Cam Jordan, my favorite player on the Saints, one of my favorite people to watch, one of my favorite sports personalities. He's a top 10. He made the all-decade team as a defensive end, and he wasn't even being double-teamed. He was being handled pretty thoroughly one-on-one. He wasn't even being chipped by a tight end most plays, and we weren't able to get to Derek Carr, man, and that really is what upsets me. We weren't really able to get to Derek Carr, and I think that was the initial game plan for Dennis Allen. He believed that our secondary will hold up in a lot of man-on-man matches, and that the defensive line would be able to get there with just 4 men, maybe an extra linebacker if need be. And it was rough. CJ Gardner-Johnson, or CD Deuce, however you like to call him, he struggled as well. He did make some stops and had quite a few tackles, but he struggled as well. And, we still have a veteran secondary, but it's still on the younger side. So I'm not surprised by the mistakes, but the defensive line was one that really bothered me. Josh Jacobs was able... I'm not sure if he had 100 yards, but the yards that he did have were very crucial, and he picked up a lot of first downs that really, kept our offense off the field, and our offense was really struggling, and it was just a rough day. But I do want to shout out Alvin Kamara. He came to ball today. He was balling. He had 95 yards rushing and two touchdowns. So What I can say is Alvin Kamara came the ball today. And that's all I can say about the offense that is positive. Um, but today isn't so much a day about the Saints losing. It's a day about Drew Brees. The talk around town for the past year or two has been that Drew Brees has been in decline. He is 41 years old and he's turning 42 in January, I want to say. And it doesn't get better from here. We've lost in the playoffs 3 years in a row in heartbreaking fashions each time. And yesterday's loss, though just a week two loss, kind of set off who that nation. We saw a lot of things that in that game that were reminiscent to the Vikings game last year in the wild card round, to the Atlanta Falcons game in Week 11. It just seems like Drew has been a very inconsistent. The offense in whole has been inconsistent. So I kind of want to give my opinion on the Drew Brees situation and where the Saints offense is headed. Drew Brees is my favorite player. He's my favorite player of all time. I love how smart he is with the game. He's my height. So seeing him on the field it gives me hope that one day I can make it. But honestly, the Vikings game in 2017, if the Minnesota Miracle would have never happened, honestly, that would be my favorite Drew Brees game of all time. That second half, coming back from 17 down. I mean, that game, Drew Brees was on fire. The passes he was throwing late in the fourth quarter were some of my favorite. The one to Willie Snead and I think the one to Ted Ginn were like some of my favorite passes against a top Vikings defense. So I'm not here to say throw Drew Brees to the streets, but Drew Brees consistency is what concerns me the most. His consistency is with his passes are very off right now in the Tampa Bay game as well as the Oakland Raiders game, and his decision making. Now his decision making, he's always kind of been like a gunslinger, so I'm not too concerned about that. But where with his accuracy and his arm strength diminishing, it is rather concerning. We do have players like Emmanuel Sanders, but he's not able really to capitalize on his position as wide receiver number 2 because the ball never really goes his way. And if it does, I'm pretty sure if we go back and look at most of the passes that Emmanuel Sanders has been thrown this season, there have been very low or hard to catch passes, or he's been in like double or triple coverage. So I feel like there's a lot of slander going Emmanuel Sanders' way, and I'm like, why? He can't throw to himself. Sean Payton's play calling is becoming very predictable. I've been watching the Saints since I was 11 or 12 years old, and a lot of the plays that he ran then, he's running now, and that's fine. But I would like to see some daringness. I would like to see some excitement. I felt like Taysom Hill should have been in the game yesterday. I don't understand why he really wasn't in the game. And I know Drew Brees has the leverage to stay in the game for as long as he wants, but Taysom Hill is a playmaker, and I'm not here saying Taysom Hill should be the starter, nor Jameis Winston. I believe that Drew Brees can get the job done, but I believe that Drew Brees and Sean Payton have to adjust to Drew Brees' age, and we have to start running the ball. Latavius Murray has to start getting the ball for our team to win. We have to take the defense off the field, because they were on the field entirely too much. And we have to make plays on the offensive end. In 2009, one thing that I noticed is that the defense was not as talented as our current defense, but was opportunistic and created turnovers. Created a lot of turnovers for the Saints to give the Saints the ball as many times as possible. In the fourth quarter yesterday, the score was 24-17 with the Raiders with the lead. They were driving. They were almost about to score on our defense, and our defense created a turnover. P.J. Williams was able to create a fumble, which gave us the ball back. But the offense went 13 yards and gave the ball right back to the Raiders. We have to reward our defense. And after that, the defense gave up a late game touchdown. Now I know who that nation is quick to blame the defense, but we can no longer blame the defense for the inefficiencies of the offense. I refuse to continue to blame the defense. In 2018 against the Rams, the Saints had the ball, and I know there was a no flag, but if the play calling would have been better, honestly, I believe that the defense wouldn't even been put in a position to have to stop Jared Goff and the Rams from driving down the field. honestly, against the Vikings last year. The offense had the ball late, and there was a fumble by Drew Brees that put the defense in a position again where they had to stop Kirk Cousins and the Vikings, and they weren't able to do so. I'm not saying that the defense is without any blame. There needs to be some better secondary play, especially at the safety position. But what I will say is the offense has had opportunities to bail the defense out, and it never seems to be the case ever. Within the last 3 years, I'll say. There has been times in the past where the Drew Brees, such as the San Francisco game in the playoffs in 2012, where the Drew Brees was able to score late and the defense was not able to stop Vernon Davis and Alex Smith. There are times where the defense has, the Saints have been excellent on offense and the defense wasn't able to hold their end of the bargain up. But at this point, I believe that the defense has done their job for the most part in the majority of most games. And I believe that the offense is the one now that needs to be, looking themselves in the mirror and figuring out what's going on, especially Drew Brees. Alvin Kamara came to play. Jared Cook came to play. But we definitely have to see more consistency with Drew Brees. And it seems like since week 11 of last year against the Atlanta Falcons, it has not looked good for Drew Brees. And that's scary and that's concerning for me, but I'm not really ready to, jump to the Jameis or the Taysom Hill bandwagon. I believe that Drew Brees will figure it out. He's a Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer. I have faith in him. He's my favorite player of all time. And I believe the Saints can work it out. But I believe that they are going to have to run the ball and they are going to have to change their identity on the offensive end. And I know Sean Payton likes to throw the ball, and so does Drew Brees. But I believe things are going to have to be different. But that's all I can say for this week. I'm excited to see where they go from here. They're facing another Green Bay team, and hopefully the Saints play well. I'm kind of tired of seeing the Saints play to their competition. It seems like they're going to play well against Green Bay, and the Kansas City Chiefs, and other top-tier teams. But the teams that give us the hardest time are the teams that we think we're going to roll against. Most of us thought they were going to roll over the Raiders and go about 30, 20 points. I've seen some say 40-point lead. And it was funny. But at the same time, those are Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Alex Smith. It always seems to be those quarterbacks that plague the Saints. So hopefully this season we can right that ship early and get right back on track, because these are the teams that likely tend to beat us in the playoffs, and we don't want to have that. This is our last year with this complete unit. Last year we gave up Von Bell because we couldn't afford him, and this offseason we'll be giving up more players as well. So we can't keep this up, and I'm a Who Dat Nation for life, but it's getting concerning, and it hurts every season seeing this team, with so much potential and expectation, falter. So let's hope that they do better, and, let's be positive and go into next week. But, you know how we do here on the Black and Gold Hour podcast. I can't leave a podcast without the Merv Speak segment, where I give positive encouragement to help us get through our daily lives. And today I'm going to give you something that has something to do with football too. Sometimes we can look around in life and get scared and not know what's going on. As in, while being a fan and watching the Saints, we have no idea what's going on. We kind of look at all the negatives and all the things in our life that aren't, where we want them to be. So for today's show, I want you to remember to look at the things that are positive. Be present. Be present. Look at the things that are positive. Look at the people that are positive in your life, and those who are giving good energy to you. Focus on that, and soon you'll be where you want to be. But thank you all for listening to the Black and Gold Hour podcast. We will be back in 48 hours to review the upcoming matchup between the red-hot Green Bay Packers as they come to New Orleans to face the Saints. But for now, y'all, I'm going to go relax, drink some hot chocolate. Y'all relax and do the same, and be safe.